Okay, we are live. How's everybody doing? Hope you're doing well. And I would like to introduce everyone to Teresa Sears. She is the Senior Director of Product Management for CompTIA certifications. Wave at everybody, Teresa.
Hi, hello.
She leads the product managers responsible for the continued evolution of CompTIA's longstanding certification portfolio, which some of you might know, A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus are standard industry certifications that I've known of my entire career. She also directs the creation of new certifications, which is why we're here today to discuss Data Plus. She prior to coming to CompTIA, she served in help systems and built technical training for many industries, including telecom, commercial real estate, and also healthcare. So, and this I just have to read from your bio because I love it. When she's not thinking deep thoughts about data analytics and technical certifications, she's learning basic carpentry through a series of possibly ill-advised projects and a 110-year-old American Foursquare. And she wanted us all to know that luckily she still has all her fingers. So welcome, Teresa. I'm so glad you're here with us today. And if you know me, I'm Robin Hunt, and I am very proud that CompTIA and ThinkData have partnered together to develop the official content for Data Plus that's going to release in first quarter of 2022. And Teresa and I thought it might be fun to get together and talk about Data Plus and talk about the certification process. So we're going to spend about 45 minutes here. If you've got questions or comments, go ahead and be sure to fill those out in the LinkedIn thread, and we'll answer those as we can. But just to get us kicked off, Teresa, I would love for you to tell me a little bit about how CompTIA actually develops certifications.
Sure. And thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. I think when we think about developing certifications, the watchword or the watch phrase for CompTIA is really industry driven. You will never see or hear about CompTIA employees sitting in a room writing exam questions. That's really not how certifications are developed at all. From the point of when an idea or a target audience is identified and the notion of a certification is conceptualized through the definition of a standard and the verification of that standard and then the development of the exam, those processes all engage professionals doing the job at a very granular level. So when you look at something like Data Plus, for example, there have been literally hundreds of data professionals involved in the creation of the certification. It starts out with working with an advisory group to really identify what the needs are, recruiting subject matter experts who might manage people who are in the target audience or have been doing that job for a lot of years, to take part in a job task analysis, verifying those objectives that are defined as part of the job task analysis, and then really getting into the nuts and bolts of exam development, where the industry professionals are actually in there getting their hands dirty, building the assessment items. So you asked the question, how does CompTIA develop certifications? We really facilitate the creation of the certification, and the whole process is driven by the needs and the intelligence of the industry and of the professionals in that field.
That's so awesome. Yeah, I think it's important too, as we develop the official content, we're removed from the exam development entirely. And I can remember talking to Katie and Becky going, okay, so I have to develop content and I don't get to see the exam. I did get to take the beta exam, fortunately, but Yeah, I mean, it's like it's a top secret kind of process, which I think just actually adds to the credibility of the certification. So for any of you thinking you're going to be able to hit me up for exam questions, it don't work that way. We'll have that content though developed for you guys, which will help lead you. So, I mean, obviously, I'm a data professional and I've been in the industry for a long time, and I would love for you to share your thoughts on why Data Plus, because again, it's so different from the A plus, the Network Plus, the Security Plus. It's a totally different target audience, even though it's still technical. So tell us a little bit about why CompTIA is going into this Data Plus, and just know I'm thrilled about it.
Well, there's a number of factors, and I think one of them, and this touches back to kind of our roots in the IT industry. What we've really observed, and our research team has noted, is this notion of the distribution of technology skills throughout an organization. So, maybe 5-10 years ago, your technical skills, your technology skills were really siloed within an IT department. And what has been happening is over time, more and more job roles are technical in nature. Like, you might not identify as an IT worker, but you're doing a lot more with technology than you were doing 5 or 10 years ago.
Yeah, for sure.
So CompTIA kind of looks at that, and we also spend a lot of time looking at labor market data. And when you look at labor market data, you see two really big areas of growth. One is in software development, and again, the distribution of that type of skill set really throughout an organization. But then the other thing you see is data analytics. You can look at any 12-month period over the last 18 to 24 months, and you will find more than 500,000 job postings that are asking for the data analysis skill set.
Yeah.
And that skill set, some of them are in IT roles. Some of them are in core business functions like marketing, like finance, operations. So at a really high level, we work with a lot of organizations, and they sit on our advisory boards, and they told us, there's a shortage of this type of skill, and it impacts their bottom line, their ability to grow, and really impacts their ability to leverage opportunity.
Yeah.
And so that, from a labor market demand perspective, that was probably the first thing that it started to lead us down the path of a data analytics certification. A couple of other things, and I know, Robin, you and I have talked some about this, but just that variation in job titles and responsibilities, or really that lack of alignment.
Yes.
You might have two job titles, they're the same job title, but the responsibilities look nothing alike.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
you've got the other thing happening too, where you've got the same set of responsibilities, but everyone's calling it a different job.
Totally different. Yeah. Yeah. I think that leads us into our next part of this conversation. I just want to kind of follow up with one thing that you said to your point that the leaders that you work with today talk about the need for these skills. 20 years ago, I was telling all my technical peers, like, one day the end user is going to be technical. Like, they're not going to be different. Like, we're going to have different things we do, but everybody's going to be forced to be technical. Yeah, I wish we had social media like we have it today, so that would be captured forever that I said that. But unfortunately, or fortunately, 20 years ago, you couldn't catch me on social media because the blog hadn't even come out yet. So one of the things I want to talk about is, between us, is the idea of why this is important from a learner's perspective, because I care very deeply about the learner, and also from a business leadership perspective. I think I'll share it in this way. I think leadership needs to understand that their people have a baseline of skills, right? I think they need to know that. But I think for our leadership, it's hard to identify exactly what data skill set you need in any given perspective. And I think because we don't have a formal definition of, let's say, the data analyst, it makes it really hard to create job roles and job descriptions and have a title. Most data workers, data professionals don't have data analyst in their title, but they're actually performing the work that are across the domains you've identified in the Data Plus objective. So why don't you share a little bit from your ideas on why it's important from the learner perspective, and then also from the business leadership perspective to have a certification like Data Plus?
I think, from the perspective of the learner, and we've all been learners, we've all sat in classes throughout our lives, and I hope that I hope that this would ring true. There is such a difference in training and education experiences.
Yeah.
You might, and this ties back to that lack of consistency between job titles and responsibilities. It's similar around program offerings. You might have two programs and maybe they both call themselves data science or they both call themselves data analytics, but then what a learner comes out of that course knowing what to do might be radically different.
Yes.
From learner to learner, like you might sit in a course and I might sit in a course, and what we end up mastering out of that course might be very different depending on many different factors, like what we're individually bringing into that experience. What certification does for a learner is it provides kind of a level set. It says, you know what, these skills are validated. And when as a learner, when I'm talking to a prospective employer, I can say with confidence, these skills, I've proven that I have them in an objective way. It's in it, I may have completed a course, but it kind of removes that the possibility of subjectivity. It provides an objective verification of skills.
It's awesome. Yeah, I think that's like one of the things I was excited about when we first started discussing the certification was the fact that you guys had intentionally been vendor neutral and tools agnostic. And anybody that's on my following knows I'm a big fan of that tools agnostic, because if you know those core concepts, it shouldn't matter like what tool it is. It helps you be versatile. So yeah, I just think it's pretty awesome that we have something that we can actually narrow down to say, hey, these are the skills of the data analyst. And I would say many of us who are data professionals are multidisciplined, right? So even it's hard for us to narrow down. It's so much easier for a data professional to actually solve a problem with data or use data to problem solve. But like you ask us to define what is a data analyst, it's like crickets, right? So I'm excited for those of us who are more senior and seasoned, but also for the new professional who is seeking data as a career choice. I think it gives them something a little bit better than things like I can query, because querying encompasses so many additional skills that you just don't think. Like it requires you to have a basic knowledge of databases and types of databases like relational and non-relational, because that's going to control how you interact with the data. And it means that you understand how to validate and profile data to figure out how to join it together. There's just so many skills, but we narrow it down with I can query. And then when you look at things like data manipulation, that can mean a gazillion things depending on the data that you're working with. But there are some common core things that as a data analyst, data professional, we all have to deal with those. And I was just sort of relieved to see the exam objectives kind of account for all of these these ideas of the things that we do, and looking at the full body of the objectives and the domains that are covered, you really are encompassing really what a data analyst actually is and should be. And you're giving leadership and organizations the ability to determine, like, where do they need their data workers, data analysts to be in regards to those domains. So I think having this as a certification and as a definition to begin the pathway to a data career, with data analysis being one of the core roles, definitely just, it helps everybody. It's not just the professional, but it's the leadership. Again, speaking to the HR team, talking to the manager, and they stick with the things they can define. Like they say, we need a SQL person, or we need a Tableau person, or we need a Power BI person, because we can define those things. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I guess my argument or question would be, is it that you really want a Tableau person or a Power BI person? Or is it that you want a person who can craft a data set so that you can get the most out of your data using Tableau or using Power BI? And so I think us having this definition is definitely going to help us get strong with that. From a organizational standpoint, I don't think you really need to tell C-level executives anymore, like, it's important to be data driven, it's important to be data informed. Like, we've shoved it down their throats for years. Like, we figured out what data we need, we figured out how to store it. Now we need to figure out, like, what are the skills that our people need in order to leverage it. And so again, I think it just has an impact across for the personal, professional, for the leadership, who are their job role is to make sure all of the data workers are coming up. And then for the organization, it just really is going to push that organization forward. I think it's really just a win-win, actually, for everybody. And again, I love the fact that it is a technical certification that is not just aimed at the IT people. Like, the IT people help us survive. We have to work in community with them. But when you're in the business side and you're having to communicate with technical people, like, it really just, if you've done your due diligence and you've learned your craft, you really should be able to communicate better. So I'm just thrilled to see a technical certification aimed at a technical business user. I think it's going to be really, really just amazing to have that. I saw a couple of questions in our chat here, and one I want to come back to because it really speaks to the importance of certifications, which I know, I mean, obviously CompTIA cares about certifications, but also Robin Hunt does. It's not because I think everybody should have a million certifications, but in the late 90s, where you couldn't go get a very specialized degree in software that was just coming out, like, we really leveraged certification to really equip our people technically. You couldn't go get a degree in a software that didn't exist yet, or in a hardware that didn't exist yet. And so certification was extremely valuable to validate you as a worker. So someone asked, can someone enter data analytics without a degree? And speaking of an end user being technical, yeah, lots of experience. So what's your thoughts on people entering the workforce who maybe have a degree, maybe don't have a degree, maybe have a degree in a completely unrelated, non-data related thing? So what does CompTIA think about certifications for the worker who may be non-degreed?
Well, I'm going to separate that out into kind of two responses. One is, can you do the job of a data analytics or a data professional without a degree? And I think the response to that is absolutely. Which isn't to say that the habits of learning and some of the other things that come from acquiring a degree are unimportant. Just that a degree is not necessarily the only way to get them.
Yeah.
So yes, I think you can pursue this type of study without a degree. Certainly, if you've got a degree, maybe in an unrelated field, I think it's an area of great opportunity for people to really upskill, maybe pivot in their careers if they've got a 4-year degree and or an associate's level degree and want to look at other areas. I will say, though, when you look at the labor market data and you look at what employers are currently asking for, there probably is still a bias towards having that 4-year degree. But I do think that part of, that is starting to change.
Yeah. Well, I know there are several large corporations who they are diligently pushing to, remove degree requirements where they really aren't necessary. Some jobs really you do require a degree to do those jobs. And I can see the desire to have them, but then sometimes you have entry level positions with a degree requirement of a master's degree, talking about software that's only been out 2 or 3 years. So it's like, are we really sure about that? So, and I know, especially in our local geography, there's always discussion about that. And the one thing that I share with, because I have the great luxury of training a lot of people in regards to data. And again, like, you can do the job if you learn the skills. And sometimes what makes the difference is if you go in where there is a degree requirement, you might get a higher pay level, but it doesn't mean that you're not capable of doing the job. So again, the more you can prove and validate that you can do the job through tools like Data Plus certification, I certainly encourage it. Yeah, and just keep grinding. Gosh, don't let anything hold you back if you're interested in the pursuit of it. So tell us a little bit more about, when we expect Data Plus to launch. What does that look like? Because again, you've launched several certifications over the years. So tell people about that process and where can they go and what should they follow and information like that about launch.
We'll be launching the certification in the beginning of 2022. So in February of 2022, both the exam as well as a full suite of learning products will be available. There will be training available as well. So that's kind of the time frame. We do have a number of different resources for learning more about data analytics in general and data analysts careers that I see are coming up in some of the comments, links to some of those resources. So that's where you might, check in to find out when things are ready to go live.
That's awesome. So I see a couple of other questions in here. Business intelligence career path. Could you shed some more light on this? Yeah. So, I mean, definitely Data Plus in my mind, based on the exam objectives and the domains, and then all of the work that we're putting into the official content. This definitely is a great place to either start or go back to if you have that 18 to 24 months experience. If you don't, you're going to have official content to use that'll help upskill you quicker. But definitely, I think this is going to be a key highlight to your business intelligence career path, because, business intelligence is all driven by data in a multitude of ways. So definitely would encourage you to go down that path. Also, there are vendor specific certifications, and there's no reason to exclude a very vendor specific certification into your life. Like you at some point have to determine where you, again, like most of seasoned data professionals are multidisciplined, right? So you have to figure out where your lane is going to be in that part of your career when you get there. So I think having a group of certifications definitely is going to well round you. Teresa, you have any thoughts on that?
I was noticing when you were talking a little bit earlier about different product type certifications, whether it's Tableau or Power BI or any of the other product specific certifications. And someone had made the comment versatility. And I think that is one of the benefits of something like Data Plus, because it is a very broad certification. It touches on a lot of the different steps that you might do in getting ready to kind of analyze data.
Yes.
And I think that's where a lot of the benefit of it is. You can at some point it might be appropriate for you to get really deep into a specific tool, and then at another time you might need to pivot and go deep into another tool. And I think what something like Data Plus with this broad base of analytics knowledge can give you is that agility, that ability to kind of go deep in those tools because you have a baseline.
Oh, I totally agree with that assessment. While you were talking about that, I went ahead and pulled up the exam objectives. I'm too paranoid to share my screen, but I'm going to shout them out. So you have data concepts and environments, and this is where we get into databases and data warehousing and relational, non-relational, structured and unstructured. We have data mining. If you are a data professional today, you know exactly the amount of effort that's put into that particular domain. You also have the data analysis component, again, the central tendencies and basically the things you need in stats. But don't let that be overwhelming, because it's a category that usually people jump out and exclude themselves. So don't do that. Just stick with it. And you need to know these things anyway. So when you're in these larger data science conversations, you know what they're talking about, right? So it's not like you have to go out and all of a sudden be the head of the statistics department, but you do need to understand a baseline of these things. Also, visualization. Visualization is so much more than just a chart. It's so much more than just a chart. It's more than that. It's everything. It's like, if they wanted to review thousands of lines of data, they already had access to it. They didn't need that. They need you to show it in a way that it's digestible and that you're telling the story around it. I'm not making up a story. I mean, telling the story that helps drive a business forward. And then my most favorite and least favorite all at the same time is the data governance. Data governance is such an important component of any organization. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, some of these organizations go, oh, we don't really have data governance. Yes, you do. You just don't have control over it. There is somebody's giving access to your data to somebody, and you may, if you are the leadership in an organization who says we don't have data governance, I need to talk with you for real. But data governance for the data analyst, it controls really everything we do and how we do it and how we access it. So really feel like you have just really nailed it down. I am just so beyond thrilled over the ability to have, here's the domains and here are the objectives inside those domains. And I think anybody who's wanting to prepare ahead of time for the exam, you should spend some time really looking at that, at the exam objectives, and also just doing a real gut check. What does this word even mean? Don't know. Got to go seek it out. Teresa and I were talking about, again, when we started our careers, I was asking Jeeves things and Google hadn't even come out yet. Okay. So it's like we didn't have transparency in images yet. You couldn't stream a video. None of those things back when I started. YouTube didn't even exist. I remember us being at work that day and they were like, have you heard of YouTube? What's YouTube? And then here we are. Okay, so there are plenty of outlets in which you can start the discovery process of where you are and prepare for the exam when it releases. And of course, obviously, I'm going to pull a shameless plug here. ThinkData, of course, we're developing the official content. So we're going to be ready to train you as soon as it releases. But CompTIA, I'm just ridiculously impressed with all of the tools that you guys have developed centered around the different learners and the different learning experiences. So it's not going to just be one type of learning that caters to one type of learner. There's going to be tons of that. Do you want to share any insight into the different products and how you cater to the different learning styles?
Well, I think I just want to kind of reiterate the effort to really meet every candidate where they are. Because it is, we all bring our own previous experience, previous knowledge to any learning activity. And so I think your point about really digging into the objectives and assessing where you are will kind of help to determine, what are some areas that I can focus on. And then, yes, we do have a number of different products available. Some are self-paced. Some are, more like a test prep approach where you ask the questions first. We've got lab products to really get hands-on. So I think that that kind of assessment of what your strengths are and where you are bringing some previous experience to is a really perfect place for anyone to start.
Oh, I agree. I agree. So yeah, that hands-on learning experience, I think, especially in the world of data is so critical to really just ensuring that a person understands. Like, it is one thing to read a narrative and be like, okay, I can read that text and I can regurgitate it. I can repeat it, but like, we get our hands down into data up in here. Like, we're in it. Like, it's not enough to read it. You really got to dig into it. And it's in those moments where you're digging into it that the light bulbs will pop off. And sometimes you will learn about things and you'll be like, I don't really know. Why did that matter? And then all of a sudden, boom, you're into another data project and it's all about that. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I knew about that. Now I understand how to apply it. So it's one thing to learn it. Those hands-on labs, I'm so excited about those. Can't wait to get literally every one of them done, because I think it's really going to help supplement, especially for someone who doesn't have access to all the company's data, can't just go get access. That learning environment and the technology that you guys have deployed behind that really is going to give some super rich hands-on experiences. And I'm using examples from my entire career, and then also from being in community with other data professionals. So I'm just super excited about that particular component of it. There's one thing interesting here, and I'm going to show this one because I think this is really, really important. So does data analysts need to learn about a programming language? And okay, so yes, no, maybe, some, sorta is the answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I know programming languages and do I know how to code? Yes. Did I always? No. How much of it matters? Some. You're going to get a wide variety of answers there. What I will tell you is, one of the things that distinguishes a data analyst from a data scientist is that coding component. So yeah, you're going to get an introduction to it. You maybe do a little bit of coding. But really, when you start thinking about how is a data analyst different from a data scientist, that coding component is usually one of the things that will differentiate a analyst from a data scientist. So I just want to throw that out there, Teresa, while we were on it.
Yeah, and I guess I'm gonna and maybe we can you can give me your thoughts on this, but in some ways, I would be tempted to respond back to that. It's not a matter of knowing how to program per se, like you're not building an application or anything like that. It's about using like a programming language to manipulate data or to do something with a data set, rather than I think programming, unless or until you are moving up into something that is more akin to a data scientist role.
Yeah, yeah. I would just say any understanding of, I mean, okay, so data analysts, data workers, data whatever, data anything in the title. Like, we work with programs that have been built by software developers. So I would say if you don't know how to do any programming code currently, maybe a better effort at the beginning to prepare yourself is programmatic thinking. Like, get into the mindset of a programmer. That is going to help you understand what they were thinking when they built this. Or, not every software you work with is perfectly designed, and it will help you narrow that down to see what you're actually working with. But yeah, I think that programmatic thinking is super important. I think understanding a little bit about coding definitely is not going to hurt you. Sometimes people, they hear coding, math, stats, get scared, say, forget it. This is not for me. And I would just say, don't cancel yourself out just yet. It may not be for you, but you got to dig a little bit deeper into it before you decide that it's not for you. And again, I can't wait for the official content to be released for people to see the amount of effort and labs and everything that we're throwing into this to make sure that it's a great learning experience for any of data professionals today or those seeking data as a professional career choice and wanting that certification to back up and validate their skill sets. All right, I'm just going to peruse through these comments here, and yes, I'll just go ahead and throw this up. I think we're aiming for first quarter 2022. I don't know that there is a official date just yet. Of course, if you want to follow CompTIA and ThinkData, we'll definitely keep you posted because again, we're preparing now for then, and so we'll definitely keep you in the loop there. So this is a good question, and I may not know the answer to this, and Teresa probably has a little bit more insight. Is Data Plus being integrated in the professional series core, cyber, and infrastructure pathway? My vote would be hope so.
I think that there are paths you can take from our existing core certifications, from our infrastructure and cybersecurity pathways, because all of those roles benefit from a deeper understanding of analytics. That said, it is not something where, within our pathways, before you take Security Plus, it's assumed that you have an understanding of networks that's consistent with Network Plus. Data Plus is not something that builds on our existing portfolio in that way. It is more of its, it could be more of its own unique pathway. We do have an IT fundamentals certification that does have a database section that has some connections to something like a data plus. It also covers, funnily enough, programmatic thinking as well. So there is a connection there within our pathway, but nothing in terms of there being existing prerequisites for Data Plus.
So, and I'll speak to one of and we don't talk about this out loud too much, but here we are. We're going to just talk about it right now. So we definitely at ThinkData believe that there is an opportunity to train Data Plus and Security Plus together, because we feel like you just can't have too much of that. So even though they are separate, in this process of discovered security professionals are dealing with data all the time in a non-traditional data analyst way, right? So yeah, I definitely see some crossover there. Even though there may be people on my team who teach things like A Plus and Net Plus, I try to avoid hardware at all costs. that is not my thing. So I don't see us doing like an A plus net plus security plus data plus, but I definitely think there's some direct synergy between data plus and security plus, and I hope to bring that to our market for sure. I'm just really thrilled again that you're crossing over into out of the IT department, but also still within it over into the business users. I think we are desperate for these technical certifications that are that just cover the like, okay, this just tells me I got enough. I'm across the board. I've got that intelligence about database concepts. I know how to manipulate data. I know how to do basic data analysis. I know how to visualize and storytell, and I understand the importance of data governance. I just can't speak to the value of the objectives that CompTIA has really put together here. And I really feel like, I'm just going to say, I feel like you've defined actually for everyone what the data analyst looks like, what it should look like. And because you've created this exam, you've created these objectives, you have helped us in leadership roles and also organizations also define where our people are on that spectrum of those domains, so we can figure out where they need to be and how we can cater our job descriptions more effectively. We know what skills we're really looking for, and we're not just stuck to the things that we can define that's a tool specific. Not to say that we don't need tool specific skills, we do need those. But I think there's just this missing piece, and I'm just excited. I feel like CompTIA has really just jumped into our industry here and filled a gap that we know is there. We knew it, like we needed this years ago, but at least we're starting now. So I'm thrilled over that.
There's a comment here, Robin, about asking about domain knowledge, and is domain knowledge in statistics enough? And the how I would respond to that is value your context. Because I think everyone brings some different type of domain expertise. And, in this example here, it's in statistics, but it might also be in marketing or in finance or in operations. And combining that context, that domain specific expertise with this broad understanding of data analytics is going to make you, I think, that much more valuable to your current employer or to your prospective employer.
Oh yeah, I could not agree more. I think one of the most important things about a skilled data analyst is we don't care. Your knowledge applies to every data set you touch, and it's in every industry. It's in every organization. I think if you have that domain knowledge, it's just that's going to be an easy chapter for you. Like, you got that one down. Now focus on, again, pull those exam objectives, take a look and have that gut check moment with yourself and go, okay, do I really understand what they're saying here? What can I learn about this in preparation for that? But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see the outcomes of it. But yeah, I would say, you're going to be a very well-rounded, very strong analyst, because you're going to have skills across all domains and not just one specific focus area or, goodness, just one tool, because one tool just does not do it all in data, unfortunately. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. All right. So Teresa, we're getting close to our time here. Let me just peruse. Let's see. So questions like, how can a person sign up for Data Plus? Again, the exam will release in first quarter 2022. We would encourage you to follow all of our channels. And again, if you're following us, you're going to hear all about it because we're going to be talking about it. Questions about if this event will be recorded. Yes, this event is recorded and we'll make it available just as soon as we can. Yeah, a lot of excitement I can see in our comments here. Thank you to Jen Blackwell for responding to comments on CompTIA's team. And also thank you, Claudia Powell, from my team and responding to that. And hey guys, just thank you so much for being here, and we appreciate you. So we're going to let you get back to what you do.
Yeah.
All right, Teresa, thank you so much for joining me and having this conversation today. I look forward to talking about it again.
Yep.
All right. See you next time, guys.
Thank you.